All right, we'll kick us off. And, those that want to join in can join in as we go. So today we're going to be covering new warehouse floors and other naked concrete. So basically any concrete that's left exposed that you see that needs protection, mainly against hardware and things like that, is what we're going to be covering today. I'm Wade. Some of you may have seen me on these before, been through quite a few, and I'm based out of our Sydney office in Australia, and I'm joined by Christine. Give us a wave, Christine.
Kia ora.
Christine's over in our Napier office in New Zealand, where our head office is. Throughout this process, feel free to ask as many questions as you like. We'll do a question session at the end. We like to try and cover as much as we can in that question setting. So this presentation is almost just to provoke a few questions, and then we'll go through that at the end. So yeah, bash them through for the question and answer session as we go, and we'll leave them to the end, and we'll get to them at the end. And what we're going to quickly do is just throw up a quick welcome poll, just to see why everyone's joined us today. You'll see there's just 4 options. What we're going to do is try and word it towards more why everyone's joined us today. So if you don't mind just quickly answering that, I'll leave it for about 20 seconds or so, just to get your answer in, and then we'll have a look. All right, we'll flick up those answers now, see how we go. All right, good even split actually. So structural engineers, builders, remediation, good topic to be in for this. And interested in new technologies. That one always seems to win for most of these. So yeah, all very well suited. Okay, we'll keep this pretty well balanced. So what we're going to go through today is identifying what these structures need, why there's special requirements for these concretes in this type of environment, understand what can possibly do damage to the concrete, how the moisture gets into the concrete and does damage over time. And we're going to learn about using advanced solutions on day one, how that saves us time, and how also that can protect you for much longer into the future with these structures. Now, we're going to be pretty focused on warehouses and those type of environments that do cop a lot of wear. They really need a highly engineered concrete. But we're not just talking about warehouses. We're talking about car parks, factories, data centers is a big one, storage units, some retail centers. A lot of retail centers now are going to exposed concrete over traditional vinyl. So basically anywhere that needs a high performing exposed concrete floor is where this technology will be able to help you out. Christine, do you want to go through a bit more in detail some of the situations and challenges that these structures have?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of situational challenges that Wade was just talking about, these floors are in a demanding environment. In this picture here, obviously a distribution center, you've got trucks coming in, you've got forklifts going over that surface, all of the abrasion from that traffic as well on the surface of the concrete. And as he touched on briefly, the contaminants are coming in from outside on the wheels of those vehicles. You've got carbon, etc., from road traffic, and that's all coming in. And if it's raining, that's coming in with moisture seeping down into the concrete slab, and obviously you've got the structural steel underneath there. And yeah, in terms of that, the moisture is the vehicle for contaminants, which can start creating reactions like concrete dusting, which is hazardous for health, or problematic in terms of keeping things clean, especially in the likes of data centers, keeping that concrete dust out of sensitive robotics and also computer systems. So yeah, if we look over to the operational challenges in terms of these types of scenarios, you've got a very busy situation. You've got workers needing to keep things running, keep things tracking. Downtime for maintenance or just cleaning is hugely inconvenient, and so people are wanting something that they can do once and then maintain very easily, if at all, and clean easily, and keep that surface as slick as possible with as little downtime as we can manage. So yeah, if we just head over to the next slide, we can talk about our solution. So yeah, in terms of our solution for this, we're talking about a hydrogel solution, and this is a colloidal silica hydrogel, which can be an admixture, but often in these sorts of exposed surfaces, this will come in at time of pour, just after the concrete's been poured. And what it does, very briefly, as an overview, is that it penetrates into the concrete slab and transforms any of that free moisture into a hydrogel state permanently. And Wade is going to go into more depth in terms of how that impacts on curing. And I'm going to cover a little bit more in terms of the penetration of that. And what you need to know is, that that's going to look after 150 mils of your slab. So yeah, in terms of the importance of that, when you've got a scenario, as in the previous photos, where you've got heavy traffic, etc., a lot of alternative curing products, sodium and lithium silicates, they will only densify that top 2 to 4 mils of the surface, and due to just the larger scale of the particles involved. So when we're talking about colloidal silica, this comes in at 10 nanometers. A typical concrete pour is around 50 nanometers. A human hair is 150,000. So we're talking tiny scale here. So in terms of that, our colloidal silica hydrogels are able to penetrate due to the nanoscale of the technology. But also there's a chemical attractant involved, which means that it can penetrate into the slab 150 mils regardless of gravity. But yeah, in this case, we're talking about warehouse slabs. So in terms of shallow hardness, that can cause a lot of, something that you see often is that mat cracking and the delamination, etc., because you've got a different surface in the top 2 to 4 mils to the rest of the slab. And of course, as things traffic over that, it tends to create cracking due to the difference there. And so as far as a brilliant project example, we have close to our head office, 2 big box retailers, and both poured within days of each other, same mix, same places, etc. One used a really common sodium silicate cure, and the other one used the Acuron 1000 as a cure, actually. And in terms of 10 to 15 years later, we're looking at 2 very different surfaces. The sodium silicate slab has a lot of mat cracking, and the surface is quite dull. And the other, with the Acuron treated concrete, it's got a beautiful sheen on it. It's just continued to get better with use. And yeah, so it's a brilliant visual aid for us, so we know that we're doing the right thing. But yeah, if we move on to the next slide there.
I'll look after you from here, Christine.
Yeah, there you go, Wade.
Thanks. Yeah, really important with that penetration depth. It really does make a big difference, even with simple things like making sure that line marking is going to be compatible with products. Having to recoat different sealers if you're just using a surface sealer. It really does make a lot of sense to use a deep penetrating sealer like a colloidal silica like Acuron. Now, when we talk about using these products early on at curing stage, the reason we do that is due to the de Sitter's law of fives. Now, if you haven't heard of that, it's fairly simple. $1 spent at phase A is equivalent to saving $5 at phase B, $25 at phase C, and up to $125 at phase D. Now, if we're looking at that in terms of construction, phase A is when we design and build the structure. And in terms of concrete itself, we're talking about the concrete curing stage, the day it goes down, essentially. Phase B's when corrosion has started to come in and you're starting to get wear on that concrete. Phase C is when that concrete is physically deteriorating and you can visibly see the damage getting done from the concrete. And phase D is when corrosion is well advanced and we're talking about remediation and replacing. So if we can focus on that phase A and getting that right, then we can actually create quite a good structure initially, and the cost is well down on having to do things later on. So we talk about concrete curing. So what concrete curing is keeping that moisture that's in that concrete initially, and keeping that moisture in there so it can hydrate that cement, so you can get that chemical process happening. Very, very important. If you let that moisture escape too quickly, you can create a lot of cracking. The concrete shrinks, so that's where that cracking comes in, and it can create quite a weak surface, which dusts up and deteriorates very quick. So by having really good curing from the start, you're going to get a really good concrete structure, and that's regardless of whether you use our technology or other forms of concrete curing. But it really is pinnacle to getting really nice concrete to start with. When using Acuron and these colloidal silicas as opposed to other moisture retention systems, most moisture retentions are based off about a 7-day water ponding setting. So if you can imagine sprinklers with hoses and things like that, keeping it for 7 days, or you've got a curing compound on the top, which has got the equivalent moisture retention of 7 days. By using Acuron, it's actually equivalent to 14 days water cure. So double the standard. So you get a really nice, well-cured slab, but you're also getting those benefits of being internally sealed and moisture controlled in the future as well. So what I'm going to do is put that into a project that we've done, and you'll see in this next slide that we've got Kenworth Warehouse, which is down in Victoria in Australia. As you can imagine, Kenworth being a major truck brand, this warehouse is going to cop a lot of wear and tear. It's used for heavy machinery, where they keep a lot of parts for the big heavy trucks, and you've got forklift traffic and things running through there all day long. So the slab's got a really high requirement on its strength and abrasion, that really there's no other way to do it than using an internal sealer. Topical sealers would be worn off. Topical densifiers would break down the concrete, like Christine mentioned, where it's weaker underneath. So we need to come up with a really well-cured slab that's going to have internal protection right through that slab. So these were completed late last year. We've completed quite a few similar warehouses to these in Australia for that exact reason. They're really hard wearing. Christine, do you want to go through a New Zealand project with us?
Yeah, cool.
Show us one over there.
Perfect. So I assume that Australians are familiar with Fisher and Paykel whiteware as well, but that might be a wrong assumption. Yes, so fridges, washing machines. But this project was actually for their healthcare division. And so they're involved in healthcare machinery as well. And so this is a huge manufacturing and distributing facility. So in terms of that, they've got a lot of pallet racking, etc., on this massive slab, and yeah, day and night operation. And so in terms of downtime for maintenance, etc., that was a huge consideration. You can see a section there has also an added creep polish on the top, but this entire slab was densified, anti-dust, permanent anti-dusting, curing, etc., or with Acuron 1000 at the time of 4. Yeah, and it's a beautiful slab still. And yeah, I'll hand it over to you, Wade, for another NZ project.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. So this one here is for packing. So you've got to think, this one's actually for fruit, isn't it, Christine, I believe? Do kiwi fruit something out of this
kiwi
one?
Fruit, yeah.
Which actually creates its own little own environment. You've got cooled and chilled areas, so that concrete's going to go through hot and cold cycles, which can create a lot of damage. You've also got spillages and things which can be quite acidic, which can also break down a lot of sealers. So again, it's really important to come up with the right sealer that can handle all those situations. And it's not just warehouses. Like today, we're very focused on warehouses because of the hard durability that these warehouses need to go through. But we do plenty of other projects with exposed concrete. So things such as car parks, data centers are becoming very popular. I'll bring up a few examples of those in a minute. But all these type of structures, anywhere you think that there's exposed concrete, there's need for this this sort of treatment where you're not just treating surfaces, but you're really treating that whole concrete structure. So we're going to get through. Oh, here we go. So we've got a couple of car parks here. We tend to treat most major car park structures through Australia and New Zealand. We treat both the hard wearing floor that the cars drive across, and quite often we'll do the soffit up the top to stop any dusting and things like that, creating any bad environments in the atmosphere. Data centers is a big one. Exposed floor slabs. So I mentioned earlier before, a lot of retail centers are going away from vinyl flooring, and they're starting to use exposed concrete floors. These have got foot traffic, trolleys, all sorts of things through them day in, day out. So they're very hard working floors. And then we've got things like, we've got a concert hall here. We do stadiums, a lot of the stadium concrete. So there's so many different examples where we could use this, where you need that high performing concrete. So we're going to run through into question time now. So feel free to load up as many questions as you can, and we'll get to them while we're here. Also, if you do think of questions later on, you can shoot us an email, give us a call if you've got our numbers. We've got both myself and Christine's email there. We'll have a flick through, see what we've got in questions. None so far. We must have done a good job, Christine.
It's got to be something. Yeah, another thing that we can mention as well, that it's not specifically covered in this webinar, is the safety of these products that we're talking about. They're all nil VOC, so safe for the life of the structure, as well as safe during application time. I know a lot of other protectants can involve chlorine, etc., and gets a little bit hazardous. But yeah, in terms of proximity to sensitive environments, as well as just people inhabiting the building, good to go with nil VOC. We've got a couple of questions in there now.
Yeah, I'll just touch on that safety too. What we're doing by locking up that concrete structure and making it harder is we're also reducing the silica dust that comes out. So yeah, it's not just the application process that's safe, it's also the ongoing structures a lot more safer in regards to silica dust. All right, I'm going to grab...
I'll grab the first one.
Go for it.
About line marking. So in terms of line marking, I'm assuming you're talking about line marking afterwards. We guarantee that anything compatible with untreated concrete is compatible with Acuron treated concrete, because this product is a penetrating product, as well as it's not introducing anything into the concrete slab that doesn't already exist chemically. And once it penetrates into the slab, it creates more calcium silicate hydrate bonds, which are the bonds that hold concrete together anyway. So we will guarantee that it's compatible with all line marking, and then line marking, flooring, etc. Anything compatible with untreated concrete will be compatible with Acuron.
Yeah, perfect, Christine. Perfect answer. Yeah, we don't change the chemical makeup of the concrete, so whatever's compatible with concrete in any situation is compatible with Acuron treated concrete. I'll jump on the next one because this is a really good question that I get quite a lot. Can I comment on our compatibility with a burnished concrete? We get this all the time. A lot of penetrating sealers don't work on burnished concrete. The surface is too tight. It can't penetrate, therefore those sealers can't stick. In the case Christine covered it early, we're using a really, really fine particle. And as much as our application process is a little bit slower and a little bit more precise, we can definitely penetrate burnished concrete. We do it day in, day out. It's one of the good features about this. You don't get any residue on top. It all penetrates through that burnished layer. And by burnishing the concrete, you're creating quite a hard surface, and you get that soft bit underneath that Christine was talking about. We're densifying and hardening that bit underneath. So it's really important with long-term wear as well.
Absolutely.
Christine, you want to jump on the next one?
Yeah, another great question from Trevor. In terms of the treatment and slip resistance, as far as that goes, because once again it's a penetrating sealer, we have no impact on the slip resistance of the slab at all. So whatever surface it was previously, it's going to be that same slip rating in terms of after treatment. We do have other products that can add slip resistance, other topical sealers, but in terms of our penetrating hydrogels, they will have no impact on the slip rating of the slab. Have you got anything to add to that, Wade?
Just one, it's probably not really applicable to warehouse type things, but on that, because we don't affect the surface except for hardening. So if you are trying to achieve a high slip rating with your concrete, for instance, something like a broom finish, the hardening of the Acuron will actually hold that broom finish for a much longer period of time than what it normally would. So yeah, as much as we don't affect the slip rating directly, we do have a lot of benefits in regarding to maintaining slip ratings into the future. All right, I think we've got everyone so far, unless someone can sneak a quick question in before we finish up.
Yeah, just covering also a lot of surface sealers, for example, in car parking buildings can create that horrific tire squeal effect.
Yeah.
And yeah, as we've been talking about, because of the penetrating nature of the sealer, it's not sitting on the surface, it's going to reduce that car tire squeal effect that you can get with some of the surface sealers.
Yeah, good point, Christine. Lots of traffic usually head through these type of surfaces, and yeah, it can drive you insane, especially if you're in quite a public area as well.
Cool.
All right, well, that wraps us up, guys. Again, if you've got any questions, reach out to us. We're happy to help you. Quite often we get more questions after these than we do during them. So yeah, feel free to reach out. We're really happy to help. And if you want us to help us integrate this technology into your projects, again, reach out and let us know. Thank you.
Perfect. See you later.